Now, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London has been accused of calling the former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher a villain. A visitor to the museum was shocked, apparently, to read a caption next to some Punch and Judy puppets.
Yeah, and the caption read, "Over the years, the evil character in this seaside puppet show has shifted from the devil, which it was originally apparently, to unpopular public figures, including Adolf Hitler, Osama bin Laden and Margaret Thatcher." She wouldn't want to be in amongst those names, would she?
No.
Is it fair, though, to cast Margaret Thatcher as a villain?
Well, let's talk to political commentator and housing expert Russell Quirk and former miner David Craddock. Good to see you both this morning. Russell, what do you think? I mean, I know she was a controversial figure, a divisive figure, but is villain the right way to frame her?
No, of course not. She was probably one of the two best prime ministers that this country's ever had, alongside Winston Churchill. She was a woman of conviction, of proper ideology, and she literally pulled Britain up by its bootstraps. So, no, she's a hero. She's an icon. In fact, look,
Now,
I even have a
David...
picture of her on my desk.
Oh, right. That's brave. David, you were a miner, I think. So do we assume that there's nothing about Margaret Thatcher that you would find admirable?
As a person, she's okay. I have no problem with her having a different ideology from me. But it was methods and what she stood for at the time of the miners' strike that I take issue with.
I mean, but in that sense, although obviously what she did in relation to that did not sit right with you, David, how do you balance that out against the idea that she did, as Russell said, pull Britain up by the bootstraps? We were the sick man of Europe, and she pulled us out of that.
We were the sick man of Europe, as Russell says, but her methods were not the means of getting us out of trouble. All she did was turned finance towards the private pocket rather than to services. And as a result, Britain suffered in the long term. You only have to look at what's happening to society now in Britain. We're again the poor man of Europe, and if not the poor man of the world.
It's interesting that you bring that up, though, because a lot of people do look at the sort of perilous state our politics is in at the moment, and they quote people like Margaret Thatcher. They say, if only we had people who were a bit more like Margaret Thatcher, we wouldn't be in the trouble we're in now. Russell,
Yes.
What do you say to that?
Absolutely. I mean, we should have cloned her. We should have taken a lock of hair and somehow ensured that Margaret Thatcher and her way of doing things lived on forever. Look, the problem with miners now kind of lamenting what Margaret Thatcher did was that they failed to recognise the fact that the mining industry was dead. And all Margaret Thatcher did was to rise up against the unions that had already killed the car industry and many other manufacturing industries in Britain to just ensure that it closed on the basis of it not being economic anymore. But let's not forget what Margaret Thatcher did. She created Big Bang in the city, which allowed many of us to buy shares to become wealthy. She allowed us to buy our own council house. She's the mother of entrepreneurship, in my opinion, on the basis that she created that wealth. So, you know, how we can say that she was a villain when, as I say, she's one of political history's heroes without any shadow of a doubt. She had conviction and, as famously, of course, was the woman not for turning. It's just unfortunate she's not around now because I think she put current politicians to shame, don't you?
Yeah, but the reality with this, Russell, and you only have to look at David to epitomise that, really, is the fact that, yes, I mean, she did turn things round for this country. I think it's very, very hard to argue against that. But to do that, she was quite happy to break a lot of eggs. Mm. And she did that without a lot of remorse, it would seem, and that's the problem.
But she stood up against the unions. So look, the unions were militant. You know, they were running around the country as anarchists, a bit like Mick Lynch would like to see us do now. This was anarchy, and she had to stand up against it to make sure that the unions didn't absolutely destroy the economy of Britain and indeed the social fabric of Britain. Britain. So I think she should be applauded for that rather than being lamented as some kind of villain. She was a hero on the basis that she stood up for things, and she gave ordinary people in this country, even as a Conservative Prime Minister, the ability, the access to wealth, aspiration and success. She should be heralded as a hero 100%. I mean, there is no debate in my mind whatsoever.
I mean, the two of you will probably never, ever agree on this. Isn't that right, David?
No. She was a demagogue. If you look at records of how she ran a government, she was like Violet Elizabeth Bott. She screamed and screamed until they all took notice. That's no way to run a government. That's a way of running your own ideology for your own purposes.
How is there anything though, David, that she did that you would like to see implemented now? I mean, I don't know what your politics are, but you know, I mean, what would you say to those people who say we need someone strong? We're lacking strong leadership now.
I have no problem with strong leadership. It's the direction leadership took us in. It took a lot of money out of society and put it in the private pockets of shareholders and people like that, which led to the trickle-down economy where nothing trickled down. The rich get richer, companies, the things she pushed, industry gets richer, to now where they're making billions profit in a quarter isn't enough. It has to be more each year. And that's the type of greed politics we're in at present.
Well, we'll leave it there. As I said, I sort of predicted that you might not agree totally with each other on this. Thanks very much indeed, though, both of you, for joining us. That's Russell Quirk and David Graddock.
If David's still there, just because, David, you're from my neck of the woods, I just wondered what the weather's like in Whitehaven this morning. Have you got a spot of sunshine?
Misty and grey this morning, sunshine yesterday.
All right. Oh, well, fingers crossed that greyness burns off for you, David.
It's just beautiful place for sunshines.
It is. It just saves me...
It's a Thatcher type of climate at the moment, misty and grey.
You've got to get the last word in. David, thanks very much indeed.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Well, it's lovely, Whitehaven.
Yeah, yes, it is, isn't it? I tell you what, on that Margaret Thatcher thing, I think the V&A Museum, it's the plaque next to the Punch and Judy puppets that says, over the years, the evil character in this seaside puppet show has shifted from the devil to unpopular public figures, including Adolf Hitler, Margaret Thatcher and Osama bin Laden. I think that Margaret Thatcher would be deeply wounded at being put in the same bracket as Adolf Hitler and Osama bin Laden.
Yes.
And to call them merely unpopular public figures.
Yeah.
Really?
I think that's the difference. I mean, she was a Punch and Judy puppet, and she was unpopular.
Yeah.
Amongst a lot of the country.
She was an unpopular public figure as well as being popular. But to put Adolf Hitler and Osama bin Laden as unpopular public figures, they were an awful lot more than that, weren't they?
I think that's the problem.
Reword the plaque, please, V&A Museum.